everyone, and welcome back to the Sweet Tea series. I am at the Texas Policy Summit right now, joined by someone who is at one point the most prolific, infamous, both feminist and pro-choice advocate in all of Brazil. But not anymore. She has a story to tell, and her name is Sara Huff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here.
Well, your story and stuff is also just so amazing, so inspiring.
Thank you.
But first of all, let's go back in time. This is before you were Sara Huff. We were just talking about your old last name before. So what was the maiden name at the time again?
It was Sara Fernanda Giromini.
So definitely a lot shorter now as Sara Huff.
Yeah.
But you were, another question I wanted to ask. I noticed on a lot of your social media, a lot of your content is in Spanish.
Yeah.
But Brazil, would expect Portuguese. Is it like because of the region that you were in, or?
No, actually, I kind of mastered everything in Brazil. And for my first years as a speaker, as a keynote speaker, and then I started to travel abroad. Some invitations started pop up in all Latin America. So I do have an Instagram in Portuguese that I post.
I just haven't found that one yet.
Yeah,
then.
I do have one in Portuguese and I do have another one in Spanish. But now I am doing some content in English and Spanish, and the Spanish one, so I can, transition a little bit more of what I do here that I'm currently living in the beautiful America.
I see all of your English stuff. I should try the Spanish stuff too to help me out a little bit so I can finally learn. My grandma would love it if I learned Spanish. But let's talk about your story, because as I said, whenever I say you were the most prolific, top of the game in feminist, first of all, at the time when you started your work, was Latin America feminist yet? Because I know now the feminist movements there are getting pretty big. Even in Mexico a few weeks ago, I was seeing all the videos of the feminist protesters trying to to go into churches and
during the International Women's Day.
Yes. Yeah, and they were trying to graffiti, mess them up, and thankfully there were people standing outside trying to meet them.
That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, but at the time whenever you were doing that kind of work, was that new? Was feminism new there at the time?
It was very new, because we were talking about 2011 and 2012. So it was very new. I think feminism was most on university and college level, and it wasn't on the streets. It wasn't something that it is today, so massive, this whole propaganda. So yeah, feminist has done a very good job propagandizing women's literally real problems. I will say they take real problems and they
propose crazy solutions.
And propose completely wrong and immoral solutions.
So at the time, because I know now it's taken off, what helped move it? Now, were you part of that movement that really helped feminism, I guess, explode in those countries that hadn't had it yet?
I think it's a different kind of approach. I think feminism is a real issue in the whole West, but it's approached differently here in the U.S. and in Latin America. I think here in the U.S. it's mostly Hollywood and Netflix and streamings and music. You can't think in an evil
I know, Freudian slip, but you're correct.
Single artist, singer that is not a feminist. Most of them will not say I am a feminist, but they act like it, and they massively do all their work, music and the way they dance and the lyrics. It's full of women power and women's liberation and sexual revolution and all that. While in Latin America, we see more street activism, and we'll see a little bit more on the state. So the state will control a lot more with a lot of very difficult laws for family in general, while here it's a little bit more on culture. You hardly will see feminists doing the same thing that they do in Latin America, protesting so aggressively, because first here, law enforcement works way better. I feel really sorry for Latin America countries. I'm from Brazil. I am part of Latin America, but unfortunately in countries like that, law enforcement doesn't work as good it does here. So here, the judicial system has more consequences. So they find other ways to bring this ideology to our daughters and our nieces and, even boys.
So, but you were saying that it comes out of the government. How did it get, I guess, how did they find a way to infiltrate those governments?
Especially through political parties and elections, but also through nonprofits. A lot of grants that they will receive from a lot of international foundations. We can actually take a look. It's public data, and the Rockefeller Foundation and the Open Society Foundation. We will see how many millionaire grants was granted to a lot of Latin American feminist movements and gender movements, and they can work through all that money and infiltrate the government. And here, it's kind of the same thing, lobby elections, but I feel that here is more on culture.
Right. And even if it is enforced, like later on, it came out of the culture first, and then that was able to then influence like election stuff. But whenever you got into the movement, I guess, how did you find that movement to begin with? And then how did that take you all over Latin America, spreading that kind of message?
Well, actually, I came from a very hard upbringing. One of my brothers were unfortunately narcos, dealing with cartels, and we suffered a lot of violence from him. And I grew up with this violence, so I grew up with a sense of I want some restitution, I want some justice, I want some revenge. So I grew up hating family, God, men in general. And when I was 16 years old, he kicked me out of my house. My parents could do nothing. They were both victims of the violence of my brother. And I ended up with relatives, and then streets, and then prostitution, and I was abused, raped, exploited. So I ended up like hating everything, especially God, the family, and men in general. So through the news, I read this headline like feminist protests against sexual exploitment and prostitution and violence against women, and it was whoa, what's that? I am under the circumstances, so maybe if I join whatever they are, this one that I have in my heart, that's gonna heal. It's because I'm tired to be a victim for my whole life. So I took a look in the pictures of feminist activists, and they were, posing like so strong and empowered. Just looking at their pictures for 30 seconds, I wanted to be like them. I didn't know a single definition of what feminism was. I didn't know anything. I haven't read any feminist book. But I took a look and those women, so fierce and so empowered and independent, and they weren't being bitten or sexually abused by any man. They were like conquering the world. I said, that's it. That's what I want to be. So I found this group called Femin. They were really like a trend in 2012, and they were from Ukraine. So I sent them a message, and I said, I want to be part of whatever revolution y'all doing for the sake of women. I want to be part of that. I want to join that. So they interviewed me, and they funded me I didn't even have a passport at the time. So they paid me, and they fund me with a flight to Ukraine. And I thought that would be the only one there, but actually there was over 40 other women from different countries, including the U.S. And we were there to participate and engage in a boot camp, in a feminist, liberal activist boot camp, where we were taught that we weren't individuals anymore. Now we were considered soldiers of a revolution, and we needed to give up even our life, it's necessary, just to implement a better, safer world for minorities, for women, for trans people, for Black people, indigenous people, whatever. And for the first time in my life, I felt, wow, I'm important. Someone needs me. I am somebody. And that felt my heart. And they coached me with many things. It was very crazy training, a lot of brainwash, especially because we were all young.
Right.
So I came back to Brazil, and they managed all the press. And from out of nowhere, I was the biggest feminist in Brazil. I was in day and night in college campuses. I was day and night in the TV shows, the most popular ones, and radio and everything, you name it. So I became from exploited prostitute teenager, I became a young adult with a very powerful political influence in my country. And that was, wow, I will never give up this. And I really thought that I was helping women because that is what they promised. The reason why I joined the feminist movement, and the reason most liberals, even like everywhere, but especially in America, the reason why they joined this kind of movement, they are moved by something actually really pretty, really beautiful, which is the virtue of charity. They want to protect someone that they think it's being oppressed. They think this group or this individual is under suffering, and they want to protect and they want to save them. Again, they will be taught by the school or you name it, all Hollywood and the media and the mass media, all the wrong ways to do that. So the feeling is very legitimate, but the ways to get there, it's completely wrong.
And you were so right at the beginning to point out something at feminism. The thing it does correctly is that it does say that there are certain problems that need to be rectified, but the solutions are just not it. It's actually very similar, oddly enough, to the manosphere, where people are now identifying like actually men have been mistreated in these ways, but then they also propose some
terrible
solutions, and they also attack the family, which is the same thing as feminism. But so you're now one of the most well-known feminists in Latin America. What changed? What happened?
Well, we were always following rules. Me and my friends and all the activists, we were following rules from our leadership in Ukraine, and we will protest against this and against that. And then something shifted. First, we supposed to protest and show up on television talking bad about Christianity because we're talking about Brazil, a vastly Catholic country. Most people are Catholic and most people are Christian in general. So we needed to shift the culture and de-Christianize people, separate people from Christianity, and start all this talking points that
How
this
did
is
you
bad.
feel about that at the time? Like, did you see Christianity as like an enemy to the work that you were doing?
Oh,
or
absolutely, because
Wow.
I was mad at God. I was born and raised as a Catholic,
Right.
but I couldn't understand why God has forsaken me.
Right.
Why, if God taught me, if God loved me, because that's what people taught me, especially in a church, that I was a beloved and dear daughter of God, and I didn't understand, if He loves me, why I'm suffering. Why my brother is doing that? Why I ended up in prostitution, raped, exploited. I couldn't understand. So I never turned to an atheist. I never stopped believing God, but I was really mad at Him. And so my conclusion was, if God hates me, so I'm going to hate Him back. So I was convinced by the feminist movement and all this liberal movement that Christianity is actually the pillar, the basis for minorities' oppression, that the church is racist, is misogynistic, it's all that. And I don't want that. I want to protect those minorities. I love them. So, but I know now that isn't true at all. But at that time, with that age, completely uneducated, without opportunities, I was brainwashed, as people keep being brainwashed nowadays. And the second thing, besides Christianity, they started to push the abortion agenda, because abortion in Brazil, it's illegal. But at that time, they told us that we needed to do all propaganda that was necessary to help the abortionist lobby and go ahead and through the Supreme Court to legalize abortion, as they did here in the U.S., as they did in many other countries around the West. So What changes is I got pregnant. At the age of 22, I got pregnant, and I didn't want that pregnancy at all.
Well, hold on. I'm just realizing that whole story leading up to now.
Yeah.
You were a teenager through like your early 20s. Wow. Like, I just can't imagine the amount of, well, first of all, horrific things that were happening to you in your teens, but then all of this escalating to and coming to culmination in you're only 22 at that point.
Yeah.
But you find out that you're pregnant, and what happened?
Well, my feminist friends and leadership from Ukraine, they said, "Wow, this is actually an amazing opportunity because that's the fact that we need to push the abortion agenda through the Supreme Court. Imagine the most famous feminist in Brazil getting pregnant and having an abortion. So that's going to lead to a massive news, and we need to make people inclined to that matter. And that's the subject that we need to force the narrative."
So they're excited now because that means that you have the chance to kill your baby.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And when I said, "But I don't know, is this a baby or whatever?" And they told me, "No, absolutely not. This is not whatever you're carrying in your belly. This is not a baby." And all the dehumanization narrative the feminists and abortionists, they push through our throats all the time. This is not a baby. This is just a blob of cells. This is just a blood clot.
Right.
This is not a human being. It's not a child. So don't worry. And something that I think most Americans, they are not aware. And this is very important to me. I think I've been keeping this part of my testimony for when I moved to the U.S., which I didn't know in my life. I never expected to be here, but thank God I am, because I love America. But it didn't make sense saying that much in Latin America, is how much Latino people or any citizen from any third world country, how much we look up to America. We look up to America as like it's so special. Like, let's say that I go back to Brazil now and I bring some skincare or even a MAC lipstick, and
They're excited because it's American.
Yes, so people
So
will say,
cool.
"Wow, that's so awesome!" Like it's from United States, you know. So people, I don't know, it's just so special. And one of the reasons why I got convinced to have that abortion, it was because.
So you followed through with the abortion?
Yes. And one of the reasons why I got convinced is because the doctor that provided me with the abortion pills, she will come to America every 6 months to get trainings at Planned Parenthood and how to provide that and all that. And she told me, it's okay. This is something that it's legalized in America for over 50 years. It's part of the American lifestyle. Every American woman will have one.
So you're being told, like, you can be like the Americans. We're going to get you the good American stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
I thought, well, if American women are doing, and the impression that we Latino people, it's like American people, they're very picky. They will not go,
so it
with
must
everything.
Be safe was the thought.
Exactly. So, well, if American women are doing it, so what's wrong? So I'm going to do it as well. And I did. It was just horrific. They said that it will feel some menstrual cramps, but it's not. It's delivery pain. It's contractions. It's just something horrible that I wouldn't wish that for my worst enemy on earth. It's literally bearing a child and delivering a child, but that child will not be alive. It's just horrible. It hurts. It hurts so much that I can't understand how that can be legal in a country like this. America, there's so much technology here. How can they allow something barbaric as that? That's so unsafe. I truly don't understand. We're talking about something as an immigrant now. I don't understand why some basic medicines that are allowed in the whole world, here the FDA just don't approve. We have some medication in Brazil and other countries of Latin America. They're so cheap, so cheap and so accessible, but it's not allowed here.
Yeah.
But an abortion drug, they can mail to your home without any medical assistance. They will not ask you to do a ultrasound. They will not nothing, and they will mail right to your door. For me, that's mind-blowing. And it was just horrible. It was a horrible experience. I kept bleeding for many days. And there was one day in the middle of the night that it was bleeding like uninterruptedly. And the tip of my fingers, they were turning blue. I was sweating. I was vomiting. It just burned. My inside was just burning. Even the smell that was coming out of me, it was just horrible. And I called all my feminist friends asking for help. I called like 9, 10 of them. And they said, don't worry, we're going to go there and help you. But they never came. They never showed up. They literally let me to die. And I was screaming, and my neighbor, he heard me, and he literally kicked my apartment doors down.
Wow.
He rescued me with his wife, and he took me to the hospital. And you know what? I used to hate that neighbor. You know why? Because he was a white male Christian.
Wow.
I used to hate that man. I was living in that condo for 6 months, and I will look at his wife. They had 5 kids at that time, and in my feminist mind,
so it was
like
everything you hated. It was the family, the white Christian male. You couldn't stand it. Yeah.
And all that. And I will look at them as a family, like 5 kids. Who in the world wants to have 5 kids? So in my feminist mind, I was thinking, he rapes her. He is abusing her. He is forcing her to be a reproductive machine.
Right. Like that's how you saw it. It was cute.
Yes.
But then he saved you.
He saved me. And the clothes. Because we're talking about real, like 110 degrees in the summer. And she was always very modest, very elegant.
So you saw that
cleavage,
as like,
no cleavages. And it was, nah. He must force her. I can't
you couldn't imagine a woman would choose modesty.
No.
So moving forward beyond that experience, now you're one of the biggest pro-life advocates, and especially like to the Spanish community because like it's probably harder to find that. So like someone with that level of education, having come from your background as well, doing both the work in Spanish, in Portuguese, like I just found out, and in English. So if we're running a little bit out of time here, but if people want to hear more about you and your story and the work they're doing now, well, first of all, actually tell me what you're doing now. What is the work that you're working on here? Well,
now I am actually founding a nonprofit that is called Raising Non-Liberal Kids. Because I figure,
we need way more of that. Thank you so much.
No, I mean, that's every time I go. I've been speaking publicly in over 20 countries for the last 10 years. I turned to be a mother. I had another son. Now I am a wife too. I married a great Christian Texan. Howdy. That's how I got
all
here.
The things that you hated, like your last name is Huff. You have a kid.
Yes.
You're Catholic again.
Exactly. I have 4 stepkids. And,
that's beautiful.
And now I've been working as an author, and also I am running this nonprofit, which I just created this last week. So there's a lot of work to do.
Congratulations on the launch.
Thank you. There's a lot of work to do. But we want to teach and coach parents how to raise kids with strong values, and how to teach them to navigate this so complicated and woke world.
And is your book in English as well, or what language is it published in?
It's in Spanish, but we are working with HarperCollins now to translate in English, and there are more books coming out there.
Wonderful. I can't wait to read it and see more of the work you do. So if people want to follow you and follow your new organization, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, TikTok, X, all the social media. It's Sara Huff, SaraHuff. I still think about me as Sara, but now it's Sara.
Yeah.
I live in America. God bless.
Sara Huff. I'll try to say it correctly.
It's okay. It's okay.
Whenever, depending on where I am, I'll say my name, Ariana. But Ariana Guajardo, I mean, that one's it can be a mouthful. So I anglicize too. But it's been so great getting to hear your story. I have to have you back to be able to give even more of the details. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank all of you. I will see you next time.